Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Melissa Siegel. I'm a professor of migration studies and this is a channel about all things migration. And today we are diving into diaspora bonds and we're going to analyze their conditions for success, focusing on successful and failed cases to learn about good practices. But, diaspora bonds are something that have become quite high on development plans for many migrant countries of origin. So first of all, what is a diaspora bond, or what are diaspora bonds? Well, they are financial instruments issued by countries to their overseas diaspora communities to raise funds for national development projects or economic support. Now, under what conditions do we see that diaspora bonds actually work? Because there are plenty of instances where countries would love to issue diaspora bonds, but we know that they will not necessarily be successful in all of these cases. Now, I'm going to explain 4 key conditions that play a role here on whether or not diaspora bonds are going to be successful. Now, the first one is macroeconomic stability. So macroeconomic stability is really crucial. Issuing countries really must demonstrate economic growth potential and the ability to manage debt and risks like exchange rate volatility, and they have to show that they also have fiscal discipline. Similarly, successful diaspora bonds require robust and transparent legal systems and a clear use of funds, all to build trust in the banking system or in the economic system, in the financial system. The required relative financial stability is difficult to obtain unless it comes hand in hand with certain political stability in the form of a lack of conflicts and a lack of civil strifes. So countries with high levels of corruption, weak governance, or civil conflict really face significant challenges in attracting investors, and this is true also for diaspora bonds. Now, the second area that plays a key role is transparency and trust more generally. A high level of trust in institutions and confidence in the country's prospects is necessary for diaspora bonds to be successful. Transparent processes, clear project goals, reliable repayment, and engagement with diaspora communities are all crucial. Diaspora investors need confidence in the government's ability to manage funds transparently. This includes detailed reporting on how bond proceeds are used and linking them to credible development strategies for the government. Transparency and trust can be bolstered by measures such as diaspora-focused governance structures, like a state diaspora supervisory board and clear financial disclosures. Targeted marketing efforts tailored to diaspora demographics also play a significant role by promoting diaspora bonds and building trust with their communities abroad amongst specific groups. So this could be older groups or younger groups. It could be groups that are of one ethnicity or another, or maybe those that are specifically engaged in business or those that are engaged in the healthcare or other sectors. Other measures that increase trust in institutions for diaspora bond programs are meeting international governance and transparency standards, such as those of the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission, or the SEC, as it grants legal recognition. Now, the third area is strong national institutions. In order for diaspora bonds to function properly, states need to have the necessary governance capacity and to be equipped to design instruments for particular migrant markets. So strong institutions, well-structured financial instruments, and compliance with regulations through, for example, the SEC registration really foster confidence among investors and those who would be interested in buying or investing in a diaspora bond. Now, the fourth area for success has to do with diaspora engagement dynamics. So another factor here is the involvement of a wealthy and emotionally connected diaspora, particularly first-generation migrants, who often provide a sort of patriotic discount, accepting lower returns for homeland support. So in other words, a reasonably large and relatively wealthy diaspora, predominantly consisting of first-generation migrants and particularly dispersed across high-income OECD countries, and that these people left due to economic reasons rather than persecution, contribute significantly to the success of diaspora bonds, as they are much more likely to invest if you have these conditions in place. This group's willingness to accept lower returns driven by patriotism, especially during times of crisis, plays a crucial role in ensuring the effectiveness of these bonds. So this is why projects that aim to be funded by diaspora bonds should also resonate with the diaspora's emotional or patriotic sentiments as well as its interests. To illustrate how these elements that I've just discussed contribute to increasing the chances of seeing diaspora bond programs working, let's come to some specific examples of diaspora bonds. Israel and India are two of the most successful examples of diaspora bond programs. So Israel has raised over $46 billion through diaspora bonds since its inception in 1951. And this covers the period until 2021. So it's been a very successful program. The funds have supported infrastructure, housing, technology, agriculture, energy, and communications projects, making it really a reliable source even during crisis times, such as the Six-Day War. It has worked so well because of the well-connected Jewish diaspora, the trust that has been achieved thanks to the U.S. SEC registration, as well as Israel's strong credit ratings. Additionally, the structured options it offers that made it accessible to both retail and institutional investors, the active outreach and marketing campaigns and events that reinforce the grassroots connections with the Jewish diaspora, and the fact that we see this connecting with the previously discussed patriotic discount all make Israel's diaspora bond program really successful. Now, India is another example of a successful diaspora bond. India, on the other hand, issued diaspora bonds opportunistically during crises. For example, the Indian development bonds in 1991 were the first and raised $1.6 billion. The resurgent India bonds in 1998 raised $4.2 billion, and the Indian Millennium Deposits in 2000 raised $5.5 billion. These targeted non-resident Indians with tax incentives and competitive interest rates, accompanied by patriotic marketing campaigns and effective targeting during times of financial crisis. Another key to its success is that funds were used to address macroeconomic challenges such as balance of payments crises and international sanctions. However, avoiding SEC registration limited their broader appeal to international investors. In addition, although the funds were effective during emergencies, the programs lacked consistency, institutional structure, and an international appeal due to limited transparency and regulatory compliance. Nevertheless, not all diaspora bonds have succeeded. Let's discuss why some attempts have fallen short. First, let's take the case of Ethiopia. Ethiopia issued diaspora bonds in 2008 called the Millennium Corporate Bond, and in 2011, the Grand Renaissance Dam Bond. Both failed due to low investor trust, environmental controversies regarding the intended use of funds for hydroelectric dam projects, a lack of financial transparency and fund allocation, and political stability, as well as a high default risk and limited appeal of the project due to the uncompetitive bond features and unclear project feasibility. So Greece is another example. So similarly, Greece attempted to raise $3 billion during the 2011 debt crisis by targeting the US-based Greek diaspora, but failed to do so because of heavy economic and political instability, which went hand in hand with the unsustainable debt levels and insufficient diaspora trust that led to insufficient interest. So now let's look at some of the lessons that we can draw. So the first lesson is that diaspora bonds generally perform better when tied to national crises or development milestones, unless there is an already very committed and engaged diaspora like the Jewish one, as appealing to diaspora patriotism or altruism is much easier, especially at times of national emergencies or patriotic causes when engagement can be higher. It is really crucial to target the right moments. However, long-term programs such as the Israeli one outperform crisis-driven approaches such as the Indian one, which is why bonds tied to long-term development strategies such as infrastructure projects are more sustainable than those solely during crisis. The second point is a patriotic discount. So what this means is that diaspora members are willing to take a lower return on their investments because they are from the diaspora and because of their willingness to try to contribute back to the country at home. And this willingness to have this sort of patriotic discount can drive success, but really requires proactive engagement from the country of origin. Then the third takeaway is really tailored engagement with the diaspora. This is essential. Balancing emotional appeals with tangible financial incentives ensures broader participation. Bonds need features like competitive interest rates, flexible maturity terms, and options for repayment in foreign currencies. They should also align with the diaspora's preferences for liquidity and financial returns. So the fourth takeaway is that diaspora bonds are not philanthropy. Bonds must be structured as secure investments rather than just altruistic contributions, balancing emotional appeals with financial investment. There must be good publicity and marketing, but overemphasizing the investment angle risks eroding the kind of patriotic discount side, while framing it purely as charity might also fail to compete with remittances or other forms of financial engagement. The fifth area is that transparency and accountability build trust. Long-term trust building is an element that considerably increases the chances of having successful diaspora bond programs, making them more consistent and reliable. Earmarking funds for specific development projects and complying with regulations can also make diaspora bonds more trustworthy and transparent, thus more attractive. Now, the sixth area is political and economic stability, which are crucial, as well as institutional maturity. So without credible institutions, as seen in the case of Ethiopia, success is unlikely. Moreover, long-term success depends on the sustained diaspora relationships and the financial legitimacy of institutions. And finally, a key takeaway that we need to see here is feasible projects. So linking bonds to projects perceived as white elephants or too costly, like a large-scale power infrastructure, can deter interest. Projects must be viable, transparent, and well-marketed to gain support. So diaspora bonds are powerful tools for development, but their success depends on aligning patriotism and the willingness and wanting to give back with economic incentives, trust, and institutional strength. It is only under these conditions that we see diaspora bonds being very successful. Now, I hope this video gave you a little bit more insight into diaspora bonds, what they are, and where we see them being more successful, where we see them being less successful, and what you can do to make diaspora bonds for your country the most successful possible. If you found this video useful, please like it, subscribe to the channel, make sure you hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of the videos that we upload every week, and I do hope to see you next time. Bye-bye.